Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce and we are into finals footy. There's a bye round this week, Sauce, but big stuff happened in round 23 to set the final 8.
We need the bye round just to recover, Pez. What a last game and last couple of games of football. And it's a shame that there was that St Kilda-Sydney game, that dead rubber at the end a little bit, because Sunday served up an absolute treat, Pez. It started off with the entree between the Doggies and Hawthorn. Not the Doggies and Hawthorn, but that's basically what was happening, wasn't it, Pez?
Yeah, well, the Doggies played Hawthorn. They had to win to take over Carlton's position in the 8. And then the next game was, Carlton, you're not in the 8. You need to win or draw to get past the Doggies and make the finals after finishing the end of every single round in the finals in 2022.
They literally spent less than a day not in the 8. Less than a day, Pez. Less than 1 day of the round of football, so not like maybe 6-7 hours not in, and to miss out, really disappointing. And it was an absolute game, Pez. Like if we focus on obviously, the last round and that last game, the 74-75 finish, it was a game that had everything, Pez. It had, a big lead, a dominant start by Collingwood. It had topsy-turvy, had some players go down, had some interesting sort of celebrations, and then it had what we've come to know, and I don't know about love, Pez, because you don't love it if you're a Carlton supporter, but the resurgence of Collingwood in that last quarter, and they started piling on the goals. The murmur went round the grounds. 95,000 people absolutely up and about, and frantic scenes at the end, Pez.
Oh, absolutely ridiculous. Carlton have a 23-point lead at three-quarter time. They end up kicking 6 behinds. Some of the shots, quite easy. A couple of controversial calls that Carlton fans did not agree with, and then Collingwood just able to get over the line. Forget about the Jamie Elliott goal. To end it. It was at Macquarie from the other side from the boundary line, 49 metres out, straight through the middle. When he kicked that, I was just getting a little bit nervous for the Carlton fans. I didn't want Collingwood to finish top 4. I didn't want Carlton to finish in the 8. I couldn't hope for a draw because then both of those things could have still happened. Like, you didn't know what to go for, but you just wanted to go for a big moment, and we got it.
Yeah, we definitely got it, Pez. And, you really do feel, of us, obviously, avid football fans of our own clubs, but you feel for Carlton fans a little bit because they started the season 8-2, Pez, and then they only had one win for the final month of 2022 into September. And they had some pretty costly losses, Pez, against Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Collingwood, where they had decent sort of leads and they let them slip away, and it's cost them, Pez, and it's a learning experience. It's, no one really sort of had them stepping into the 8 this year, but it is cruel, it is harsh, and against an arch nemesis in Collingwood, and in that fashion as well, to 25 points up, not long to go, to watch 7 unanswered goals get piled on, and cost himself a September berth.
It hurts even more, and to lose against your arch rival by a point in round 11, they also lost to them by under a goal. They lost to them by 4 points then, and any other win throughout the season, you look back, and any other win would have got them over the line if they just had drawn another game. Would have got them over the line, and just not able to do it in the end because the Bulldogs did get in, and they stayed in Launceston after the game. They were watching the game on the big screen.
Like we said, there was a couple of beers sitting there, a couple of Eskies.
And they were ready to go. And the Eskies that we spoke about last week, they would have had to put the lid on them after the Collingwood game, after the Jamie Elliott goal. Boys, just settle down a little bit. We've got to do recovery. We've got to get back to Victoria in preparation to fly over to Fremantle. It ended up being after the top 4 went up and about, and they've got a big road ahead of them. But as the Bulldogs fans have let me know this week, 2016 they went over and they beat Fremantle over there as their first win of 4 in that final series.
West Coast, wasn't it? I think it was West Coast they beat in that first round.
West Coast, Fremantle, they're not the same thing, are they?
But they're not the same thing, but 6.6% got them in their pairs, and all we'll hear from Bulldogs fans for the next month until they lose. Actually, even when they do lose, I don't know how our team can be comfortable with it. We always find that 8th spot is a sort of a bit of a limp into finals. They play the final the week before, they sort of have to win. They get in there. I think Fremantle will take care of them, Pez, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the other huge game which determined the top 4, which cost Brisbane a top 4 finish.
Brisbane,
yep, Brisbane, because they lost Brisbane.
Oh, okay.
Brisbane.
Yep, beautiful.
I'm not going to say Brisbane because they didn't bring a win. All right. So Brisbane, where they saw them finish, Pez had the opportunity to finish second, and instead they slip to sixth and lose a home final. A double chance opportunity home final. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not good for the Lions. They do get a home final, but it's an elimination final against Richmond, who some people have as a smoky from outside the eight this season.
The bookies have them as favourite, Pez.
Richmond is favourite. It is close. Brisbane at home. People think that Brisbane cannot recover from the beating they got from Melbourne last week. I was watching the first half. I was going for the Lions. Thought maybe they can win at home. Melbourne on the road in their last game, and it just did not happen. Melbourne, right from the start, their pressure was immense. They did not let Brisbane go forward with any momentum, and Melbourne just kept going and snagging the goals. Pickett, where he left off the week before with the match-winning goal, kicked 4 first-half goals, and it was over by, mid-second quarter.
Mid-second quarter, that's being letting it go a fair bit, Pez. It was over early first quarter. The way that Brisbane Stephen May just deterred them from their forward entry and really disrupted that forward line was incredible. And it's disappointing for Brisbane because, again, we're hitting into September, Pez, and they're letting opportunity slip. This was a prime opportunity to knock off the reigning premier in a home ground advantage, Friday night clash, go into the finals with a double chance, secure and put some those nerves to rest. And we've talked about their opportunities earlier in the year. This was a huge one, Pez, and this one will cost them mentally as well because next week they play Richmond, as you said, at the Gabba. But Richmond have won a premiership at the Gabba. They won one during COVID, really, really big ask. And again, another home final for the Lions where if they don't win, questions are going to be asked.
And questions have to be asked because this group, they just need to do better. You need to secure the wins earlier so you're not going into the final round having to win, especially when you're going to play a team like Melbourne who, reigning premiers and all that. So those teams, it's a lesson to everyone. Fremantle, they've cost themselves a top 4 spot during the year. Richmond have done quite well to get into the 8 from where they were earlier in the year. The Bulldogs have spent most of the time outside of the 8, but Carlton are the ones really, really cost themselves a shot at finals. St Kilda, you could say, but they were really disappointing. Also selling home games up to Darwin, which you don't need to do if you're a decent side. So a lot of lessons to be learned in 2022, and hopefully teams don't make those same mistakes in the future.
Yeah, and it's whilst we're saying that it's unfortunate that those teams have finished 5th and 6th in terms of Fremantle and Brisbane, and Carlton slipping out, but those teams that have made their opportunities and they've taken them when they've been given them, Geelong, Melbourne, Sydney, and Collingwood in this group as well, they're deserving of that top 4 because they have taken every opportunity as it's arisen. And Fremantle and Brisbane will be kicking themselves if they go out in straight sets. But big achievement for Fremantle. They didn't make finals last year, but Brisbane, this will be the first time that they've slipped out of that top 4 in the last 3 or 4 years. And the last 3 or 4 years, Pez, you and I both have had them as one of the favourites, and it's going to be hard to win it from here. We know the history around winning a premiership from outside the top 4.
They have nothing to show for it at the moment. If they beat Melbourne,
that's disappointing.
Looking on percentage and how it would have ended up, they would have been travelling to Sydney with a double chance, and they match up quite well against Sydney, so they could have won themselves into a home prelim final. This path, if they do beat Richmond, you don't want to imagine what happens, but say Melbourne beat Sydney at home, they go to play Sydney in the second week in an elimination final instead of a double chance match in order to, go to Geelong? Would they play Geelong prelim down Cardinia Park?
No,
definitely
not with the redevelopment. They've already said no finals will be played in Geelong this year.
There you go, and that's fair enough. So MCG, it would be, and
we know
the Lions just don't.
They haven't won there in 10 years.
They can't win at the MCG at the moment, so it's just no good. The other story from the night was the Ben Brown tackle. Cam Rayner, an aggressive tackle in the end. I thought it was going to be holding the ball at the start until the thud happened on the ground, but Ben Brown came up second best, blood nose, a little bit of a graze on his head, and Cam Rayner lost the appeal and is missing finals again. So he missed with an ACL last year, and he's going to miss the elimination final. So if Brisbane can't get a win, he still won't play finals.
Yeah, a bit really disappointing for him, but again, disappointing for Brisbane, and that's not something that you need going into finals. You want to have your best list in there. They are also facing some controversy from the week before with, the Zorko stuff. Pez, not going to get into it. We know that some of these sort of things happen in football. They shouldn't be. Terrible. Those sort of conversations on the football field should remain on the football field.
You know what he got asked in the hearing?
No.
They said, don't you assess that the ground at the Gabba is a harder surface in the middle of the ground there? And he said, why am I assessing the ground and how hard it is? I'm going out there to play AFL footy. Like, what's the big deal? And he's tackling a player, Ben Brown, who's bigger, stronger. This is what I don't get. If the players aren't aggressive in the tackle, then the guy's probably going to break free and get a handball out. And the player that does the tackle and doesn't lay the tackle and isn't aggressive, he could get delisted. His career could crumble down. I'm not talking about Cam Rainey here. I'm talking about anyone. And they could lose an AFL contract, which is worth a couple $100,000 at least.
But Pez, he doesn't do a hard tackle, as you said, and the guy breaks free, and it's costly. You need to make sure of the tackle. It's disappointing that a football act like this, and he's getting pinged because it's a hard tackle.
And the result.
And the result. We know that we are a results driven tribunal system, but it's just disappointing for Brisbane. It's disappointing for Rayner, but it does make for an exciting final series, Pez. And we'll talk much more about the final series going into the next couple of things. But some other for a week that had no football, Pez. A lot of huge stories came out. Well, on the Friday afternoon, after we spoke about it, Clarko. He's taken the realms at North Melbourne. They seem extremely confident. They had a great presser, and we'll talk about Essendon being the bridesmaid. Or actually, I've got a good analogy for that one. Someone mentioned, but North Melbourne. It's a huge victory for the club. This is a huge step for North Melbourne, and it's not just a new coach, Pez. Hopefully, it's the start of a new culture, and that's what he talked about in his presser.
Look, it's the only step, and it was the only step. If it didn't happen, Sauce, just think of that. If it didn't happen, and North put all their eggs in the Clarko basket, he chose Essendon, North would be an absolute rabble right now, and there would be no excitement about North. No one's worried about them at the moment. There's markets out there on betting agencies for how many premierships he's going to win by 2027. And we're talking about a North Melbourne list right here. So it's absolutely ridiculous what the media thinks. But he's got a free run for a couple of years now.
He does.
So he doesn't have to worry about media scrutiny. He doesn't have to worry about losses. He just needs to go in and coach as he does. And he's already spoken to a whole bunch of different players. We heard Jason Horne-Francis interviewed earlier in the week, and he said, yep, he's had a talk to Clarko. He wants to play more midfield time. He has to. And the first time I've heard Jason Horne-Francis, because he's got a couple of issues this year, Sauce, and a bit of attitude, but he actually said, I need to go away. I need to get fitter, and I need to be prepared to play AFL footy. Yeah. So that little talk with Clarko, bang, mindset changed.
And it's one of those things, Pez, and Clarko said it himself in the first address that they had after the 67-point loss to the Gold Coast. He made a phone call, and the message was really clear. He made a phone call to most of the players in that list, and he didn't actually doesn't start until November 1st. But he said, you guys need to get ready to roll up your sleeves, because I'm not the answer. I am not going to come around as the magic guru. You guys are going to have to work your asses off. The list is there, Pez. We talked about it last week, the great place that Clarko's in, and it's going to be a long climb back to the top, Pez. And what North Melbourne, I think, and Clarkson is trying to build is not just a winning formula, but a club culture shift, and that we don't want to be, North Melbourne has a great history, Pez, and I know we shit on them a little bit here, the pod, but we don't want to see a Victorian team shipped off to Tassie. We don't want to see that with a rich history. We want to see them come back and be a powerhouse and make the league even better to watch, and I think Clarko has that mindset there, being an ex-player as well.
Now, we all know that the North fans have tuned in to this podcast.
They have. They're waiting for us.
Because they've tuned out over the years with my hate on North and just bagging the absolute shit out of them. So I've had to come up with a way to make this a negative source. So
of course you have.
We've got Clarko. He's signed on. The best modern era coach of the AFL era. Okay, he's won 4 premierships at Hawthorn. Now, he rebuilt a club, which Hawthorn were down in the dumps. They were down Victorian side.
They were. Same sort of talk of them.
Only 16 teams in the competition, Source. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot harder now with 18 teams. So North fans, just think about that for a minute. Stole a premiership. I don't know if you'd agree with that. 2008, that within the rules. Okay, maybe they earned it.
Yeah, you're challenging Clarko here. Jeez.
I've got to do something for the North fans out there,
Jesus
don't I?
Christ, Pez, your credibility's going down.
So they've stolen that flag. They weren't ready for it. Didn't make the finals in 2009. You go forward 2011, 2012, expansion clubs come in.
Yeah.
Draft
Compromised
compensations,
draft, yeah.
free agency comes in. So every year that they won the premiership, they lost Lance Franklin, they got in compensation. They got in Brian Lake, who won a Norm Smith medal in a grand final. The change of rules and in free agency and the way it was back then helped Hawthorn get those premierships over the line more than Alistair Clarkson did. And those rules aren't here anymore. He might lure in a Bradley Hill, a Jack Gunston, a Luke Bruce or whatever to North Melbourne, but they're not going to be the answer for a premiership side right now. So if you're thinking premierships, just think a little bit off that if you're a North fan. But
I don't think that has to be the ceiling. Like, I don't think that is I think this situation is judged differently than any other sort of change of coach. You know, if he went to Essendon, you'd be sitting there going, okay, well, you need a premiership now. That list, you haven't picked them up when they've been on the bottom. You've got good facilities. You've got good coaching staff before they went and axed everyone, But what Clarko brings, because not only, experience in terms of players, premiership experience, he does a lot of research. He loves his craft. He was over in the States earlier in the year,
Steve Kerr.
Looking at Steve Kerr and looking at, and again, culture. Winning culture, and he turned Hawthorn into a powerhouse club. That's what he's trying to do. He will get amazing resources in terms of people that want to work with him.
You know who else did that? Paul Roos at Melbourne.
Yep.
Didn't get anything while he was in the job, did he?
Nope.
All the benefits came later.
It's about building a culture. It's about building it from the top up. It's about building things that people want to go, and instead of just using North Melbourne as to up the price in a bidding war, North Melbourne, when they go on that tour, Pez, when De Goey goes through that and when everyone goes through those doors at Arden Street, they're not just doing this going, oh my God, I know I'm only here to try and get people to raise the price a little bit, but get me out of here. You got to make it, when you're walking through those doors, even if they have already decided they're not coming to North, you got to make them second guess. And I think that Clarko, what he can bring in terms of that experience, coaching staff, he'll bring, those senior players that want to finish their career and go, you know what, maybe I can't get a premiership contract, but let's go and work with Clarko, and maybe I can help build my coaching resume and build some experience that way. You get these experience at the clubs. Then you get funding and resources. Like, their name's been in a positive light over the last month, Pez North.
He's bringing people in. And I understand that, but I'm just talking about
I know. You're trying to put North
glory,
down, and I think the glory. The North Melbourne fans have endured enough, Pez.
Is Clarko as good? Is Clarko as good as everyone thinks he is? Let's see.
Wow. Speaking things that are not good, Pez.
Essendon.
Now, and I heard this analogy, Pez, I'm not going to steal it because I'm going to give them credit for it. The Hardball Gets podcast put this in perfectly to sum up the Essendon and Clarko situation. And what they said, Pez, is Essendon were like the girl at the wedding who puts their hand up and goes, Steve, I actually love you, right on the wedding day. And Steve goes,
who's Steve?
Steve's the groom.
Oh, okay.
And Steve goes, well, thanks, mate, but I'm actually getting married today. I just wanted to let you know that I love you and I'm available. That's cool.
So what's Essendon? Like
Essendon is that person girl. The ex-girlfriend that's been sitting there the whole time and then just tells them how they're feeling at the last minute. But there's no way that man can back out of that. Like, why did Essendon throw their head in the ring last minute? If they knew they were going to do this, we spoke about this last week, Pez. An absolute schmozzle. They were never getting Clarko. Clarko couldn't do all that and not go to North Melbourne. I know we discussed it last week about what they could possibly do, but that's not going to happen.
Well,
Essendon have really made a terrible move because then they were forced to sack Rutten from it all. And they probably didn't need to.
It was an untenable job for Ben Rutten, but they're run by a bunch of fuckwits, really.
Jesus Christ.
Essendon. Hey, since, say, 2004, haven't won a final, but there's reasons behind that. There's list management. Yes, there's the Asada drug saga issue in the injections.
Yeah, but they're past that.
Set them back 4 years or whatever. And now, just with list management and things like that. And we've got Adrian Dodoro, who they're still saying, yep, he'll send us into a rebuild here. He's the worst bloke to hear about when it's, trade day or whatever, and everyone's trying to deal with Essendon. He's asking for 14 first-round picks and a couple of second-round picks for a mediocre player at Essendon. he has cost that club a lot of really good deals that could have got some high end contracts out and got some young talent in, and they could have been in a better position. But he's one of the reasons why they're there. They've got CEOs and things that just go, oh, I've got a lot of money, I've got a lot of things to do with Essendon in my life, but they've got absolutely no idea, mate.
Yeah, no idea at all, Pez. And there's so many issues going on there. And like the board over the last 12 months or the last 6 months, let me give you an idea of how we can see that they've got no idea at the top. There were 4 main issues that the club, at the top in the board level, were debated on. And in most of these cases, they were divided by 6-4, right? So the need for an external review over the last 3 years. Every time they went, we don't need one, 6-4. Are you serious? Even this year, they still were like, we don't need one yet.
Yeah, we're all right. We made finals last year.
We made finals last year. Yeah, cool. For me, that's an alarm bell. The second, the choice of president between media executive David Barham and ex-Westfield boss Peter Allen. Okay, that one's neither here nor there. But that's pretty. The fact that you have got a split vote on who your president is going to be is an issue. And the way that they move forward and your leader means there's the internal turmoil with all that. The manner in which the club pursued Alistair Clarkson and the way they did it. Because they continually said that they didn't meet with anyone. They decided, we don't need him. Like, if he's available, we spoke about this last week, Bez, you pursue him.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You pursue him, and then you know what? You do sack Clark. You do slack Rutten because you know what? There's a better person for the job. And they pursue them like everyone else did. And the last one is whether they actually had to sack Rutten or not, and the way they hung him out to dry like they did.
After he's hung out to dry, after the players didn't respect him, he's already gone.
But they actually went and said, they're like, oh no, he's got a job with us. And then 3 days later, see you later.
And I respect Ben Rutten in all of this. And it would have been awesome if he had gone before round 23. Screw you guys, I'm out of here. But you got to understand that he couldn't do that because he needed to be fired. So he would be still under contract and paid out for the next year to support his family. If it wasn't that case, there's no way he would have shown his face. There's no way he would have coached him round 23.
No, and he also does a justice to himself. Like, he believes in the program. He said for the last interview that he goes, I believe I'm the man for the job. They trusted me, 12 months ago to do it. Like, he hangs himself out there, Pez. But Essendon, absolute joke, the way they've handled everything. The way that they, again, haven't come under enough scrutiny up until this point anyway. They had a dismal season. And what the Essendon, what's been good for the Essendon fans is they're sitting there and they're starting to realise that list was not good enough. That list is not good enough.
But they had some wins towards the end of the season.
Pez, that list, and what they need to do is they need to have a review, and they need to sit all the players down, and they need to say, hey, you guys are not good enough to be playing finals. You shouldn't have played finals last year. You got lucky.
That's what they don't understand, and that could have been one of the worst things for them.
That's where football clubs fall down. And we saw what happened to North Melbourne when they snuck into finals on a compromised draw and they tried to top up, and they've now spent the last 10 years down there. Essendon need to wake up right now and go run through that list. Otherwise, they're going to end up in North Melbourne's spot with a huge fan base that are going to be asking for heads, and it's going to turn to absolute shitstorm, Pez.
They're going to ask for heads, but I don't think those Essendon fan base, I think they're too loyal. Those older ones. It's those younger generation
they will turn, Pez,
that are going to turn. The younger generation, not the old heads that have seen the 2000 premiership and all of that. But Essendon, to fix them, they need to be relegated to the VFL or something. Just go back to the VFL. You had your glory days in the VFL where you won all those meaningless premierships, and that every single Essendon supporter talks about. Source the 16 premierships, only 2 in the AFL era after 1990.
I was waiting for
that. You talk about your 14 silverware cups and go and try and win a couple more in the VFL.
Oh, Pez is hitting hard on these favourite clubs. All right, and I know that the next one, Pez, your new favourite thing, or one of your not new favourite things, one of the things you do love, Pez, is the All-Australian side. You're a big fan of this one. The 40-man squad, Pez, was named on Monday night, and I don't know if it was just me or Pez, but I didn't have enough time really to read the 40-man squad before on the Wednesday night it got announced. And, the not 22-person side, what they made it out to, Pez? 33, 44... How many people get included in this? Because they just chuck midfielders in everywhere.
Oh, we chuck everyone in everywhere. We know that it's gone. All Australian, as we know on the pod, and as the loyal listeners would know, Source, that I'm not a massive fan of the All Australian side. I had a look at it for the first time tonight, if I'm being super honest, and surprised to see a couple of things in there, including weird captain's choice. But the All-Australian selectors, they just do their thing and try and fit as many good players in things as we go. We don't have many rules here, do we? We don't have many wingers that can really make the side. If you're a genuine winger and you run down the wing like an Ed Langdon, you don't really have a hope if you're battling against the best midfielders of every other team, like a Took Miller.
What's your thoughts on doing something similar to like obviously they pick 22, like they pick 22 people for a side and they try and include the best players in there. Now we know that it's a midfielders game, so if you're only picking the best players, generally you're going to get the best overall players are going to sit in the midfield or those key positions, Pez. If you're looking at those wing players, those role players, and there's some absolute superstars in those role players, they're not going to shine as much when compared to a midfielder. So you put Lachie Neale up against who's a winger that had a great year, Pez.
Langdon, he had a decent year.
You put them up against there, and of course, Neale and Mills and Took Miller, Oliver, Cripps, they're going to look a lot better when they're compared side by side. But if you look at his actual role, Langdon had a great year. Should be in that sort of, for that matter. What about the thought of something similar to what the NBA do, Pez, and do your All-Australian first midfield side, your second midfield side, your third midfield side, maybe just name 6, and then go your All-Australian just a wing side, and you pick 6 wings that are All-Australian. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, I'd never thought about that.
So rather than making them compete against different spots, you just go, right, well, you're number one. Well, let's pick our 6 best midfielders.
Do you have key forwards and small forwards?
Well, let's just go, six of your forwards, and then the next lot can be in your second team. Maybe. Or maybe you do key forwards. I don't know how you want to do it. Maybe you put a little bit more effort into the, the actual design of it.
3 small forwards.
Maybe something like that. But then actually, rather than make them compete against each other, make it against them compete about the spots. Now, I know the NBA have a problem with it, currently because they have a lot of players that get named at centre who, the centre's basically gone out of the game.
That's the issue there.
That is issue, but we're having a ridiculous side. Now, I know that they don't play a side, and they're like, oh, well, they don't play a football anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's like, well, you're right, it doesn't matter. So if it doesn't matter, then why are we putting it in the side? Like, if you're going to put it into side, give honour to the history of the game, and you've got positions for a reason. Put the best people in that position in the spot. And if that means that, your best forward and your full forward gets moved to centre half forward, well, then so be it. He misses out. He's not the best forward in that game, that position.
Yeah, you've got a point. Everyone's got their idea about the All-Australian side, and we know that the selectors don't always do it the best. But looking at that back 6, we've got Tom Stewart, Stephen May, Braden Maynard, Jack Sinclair, Sam Taylor, Adam Sard. Jack Sinclair, Adam Sard, genuine halfbacks.
Yep.
Sam Taylor, genuine centre halfback. Stephen May, genuine fullback. Tom Stewart, back pocket. Braden Maynard, he actually plays one-on-one defence and plays a back pocket role, and he runs off. So the back 6, looking decent. Looking all right.
Yeah.
If I go to the forward line, I'm going to skip the midfield for now. Christian Petrarca, Jeremy Cameron, Shai Bolton, Charlie Curnow, Tom Hawkins, Tyson Stengel. So they've got the 3 big forwards, 3 big talls, Cameron, Hawkins and Curnow. You've got Stengel as the small forward there. You've got Shai Bolton, who kind of runs in the midfield but does go forward, and I can see why they've picked him at a half forward line because he actually changes games as an X factor. Petrarca probably doesn't do enough. He has pings from 50 out. He kicks a lot of behinds.
He's more of a damaging midfielder.
He's a midfielder that can come out and kick goals. And that's why they've chucked him on a half-forward line. Yeah. But why not chuck a genuine half-forward type player in there so they've actually got a chance? Because there's only really one forward pocket or genuine forward pocket player in the forward 6. You look in the midfield, you've got Gawn as a ruckman. Obviously, the ruckman is always going to do that.
Disappointed there's not 3 ruckmen this year.
Oh, they always usually try and do it, but Blixarves is the perfect pick on the bench.
Oh, I love it.
Utility,
great.
He can go anywhere. He can play anywhere. He plays defence, plays forward, plays in the ruck, and he plays as a midfielder and a winger as well. So he is the perfect person to pick in All-Australian because no one can say, oh, he hasn't played that spot this season. But Clayton Oliver, Patrick Cripps, Lachie Neale, they're the ones that are in the middle. They're in the centre square there. And you've got Took Miller and Callum Mills on the wing. Now, Callum Mills, probably more of a half-back. He's moved up to the wing a little bit, but not as much. But Took Miller, he is a genuine centre square bounce type player who gets the ball there. So he's not a wingman. And you go from there. They've got a couple of forwards/midfielders on the bench to try and play that out. Andrew Brayshaw would have suited the wing more than Took Miller as well, even though he's a genuine midfielder as well. So I don't know. Interest is depleting year after year with the All-Australian side. And if they want interest to stay, they need to do something about it. Not a big shake-up or anything, but just make it genuine.
Make it genuine. I like the idea of genuine, Pez, and maybe you have your A side and your B side, and then you just at least make people well worth the position. But in the game and the way it's evolving, there are becoming a lot more players just playing around the ground, so I can understand how they can make justifications of splitting them in, even though that Took Miller only played 2% in that position there, and he's still named in that. So, but the question that everyone's asking, Pez, biggest snub off the top of the list. You got any main people that you're looking at?
If I knew who was in the 40, I might be able to.
I'll give you the list of what the people think, and then you can tell me if there's any standalone snubs there. Pairs: Rory Laird, James Sicily, Charlie Cameron, Sam Walsh, Angus Brayshaw, Tom Lynch, Tom Barrass, Marcus Bontempelli. The top 10 of what people think. Any standouts there?
No, not for mine. I like who are you saying from there?
Oh, I just not saying anyone. I just wanted to know your opinion.
Like my opinion, like I do want to talk about
maybe Sicily. I think Sicily had a good year. I think he kicked 50 goals. Maybe. But again, you look at that forward line.
Sicily's not kicking 50 goals.
He's not sitting in there. Not Sicily, sorry.
Who you got?
I don't know.
What I was going to talk about is the centre half back position. So Sam Taylor for the GWS Giants. I did ask you. I said who else is a genuine key defender, and you gave me Tom Barrass. So both really good one-on-one defenders. The problem is that the ball went into their defence so many more times than any of the other good sides. So they've had more opportunity to do that. They've obviously shined with the intercept game when they've gone. Barrass probably didn't play enough games. If I remember at the start of the year, he was missing a few. But Sam Taylor, genuine star, and nothing against him, but just the amount of ball that he had and the opportunities that he had to intercept and defend maybe shone the light on him a little bit more than others.
Yeah, and also Barrass had 77 more goals kicked on his team compared to GWS. I think that if Sam Taylor's not down there, they probably get opened up a little bit more. But you are right; it's hard to. I heard someone say that the defender should always come from the person in the back line because and from a bottom team because the ball's down there a lot. And it's like, well, that's not a good indication. Like that's not a great indication at all because if the ball was down there all the time, they'd be stopping it, and they probably wouldn't be getting beaten every single week. But neither here nor there, Pez. What about all the awards that have gone through? When you start things off with the All-Australian, Pez, they had the two captains, the All-Australian. Tom Hawkins named the captain, Pez.
Weird.
And Patrick Cribbs named the vice-captain.
Yeah, I don't mind the Patrick Cripps vice-captain or captain there, but Tom Hawkins as a captain, I don't really see it. How does he get that? What's the criteria? I don't understand.
I guess maybe they're looking at his leadership on the field. He's an experienced guy. He always seems to be doing the team thing with all these little goal assists here and there. But it is a weird thing.
I want to put the GA, the goal attack on him, goal assists.
It is a bit of a weird thing there, Pez. I would like to see the winner of the best captain voted by the players and coaches. This year Scott Pendlebury won that award as the alpha best captain. I'd like to see him get a Guernsey and just
what's he going to do? Captain him from the boundary line?
Yeah, he could. Yeah, definitely.
They don't play. It's ridiculous. As it is. You want to add that? You want to add that in? You can for that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Why not? Some of the other awards, Pez. You had Robert Rose, most courageous player. Liam Baker. He won that. Yeah,
good on him. Well done.
Yeah, best, fairest first-year player, Nick Dacos, as well as the rising star, Nick Dacos.
Yeah, he had a rough start in his first game, which people don't remember, with a whole bunch of clangers. But he played well in a lot of Collingwood's close games and just racked up the possessions and playing well with the other Dacos brother as well. I heard people say that he wouldn't have won it if his last name wasn't Dacos, and I don't really agree with that because he was well deserving with that.
Absolute superstar, and one of the reasons that Collingwood have been so successful this year and been able to hold on, he's an absolute star, Pez. The AFL Coaches Champion Player of the Year, a tie, Took Miller and Clayton Oliver.
Is this the coaches' votes with the 10? Took Miller and Clayton Oliver. So Took Miller's done well there for where they've finished on the ladder, like getting
the most valuable player, isn't it?
Obviously high votes and things like that. But Clayton Oliver, he got tagged out of a couple of games in the season, but his impact on a lot of games, 30 plus, 35 disposals, and in and under type midfielder as well, just well deserving up there.
Yeah, and the Best Young Player Award, Jai Newcomb, voted by the coaches.
Yeah, well, is that the Dacos and the Newcomb thing?
So one was done by the players. One's the rising star, and then the other one is the voted by the coaches.
Oh, okay. Like John Newcomb for Hawthorn, he played a great season. He came out.
I know best young player, actually. I tell a lie, so I don't know what that is. Best young player? Wouldn't that just be a rising star?
That's what I assumed. That's why I didn't know that was an award. But Newcomb finished second to Dacos, had a good season.
Had a great season, Pez. Who knows?
Good
And the alpha player of the year was Angus Brayshaw, which is really good and should set him up for an interesting Brownlow night, Pez, because he's one of the favourites up there, as well as Clayton Oliver.
Andy Brayshaw.
Yep. Good get the Andy there, Pez.
Well, you said Angus, so I was thinking about the helmet from Melbourne, so you just got to knock at the brothers.
He came third in the Brownlow a couple of years ago.
He did. Good call. Andrew Brayshaw, absolutely amazing year, especially with Fremantle losing what they did and being able to finish where they did. Disappointing not to get to top 4, but Andrew Brayshaw, a big reason for their rise up the ladder.
Definite rise, Pez. And you know what? The main reason that people tune into this show, Pez, is to hear not about the finals and not hear about the alpha player of the awards or the All-Australian. They're hearing where the money's been made, Pez.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
Well, didn't I just waste my bloody time there? Why don't we start with this if that's what the listeners want to hear?
You got a slow drum roll, Pez. You don't go into the banging the cymbals straight away. You get a nice little slow drum roll.
You got to hear the knowledge of where the betting comes from, Sauce, because it's been a stellar 2022. Regular season over, ready to go into finals, but we've got to wait a week.
Another year, Pez. Another year regular season in profit.
Oh, yeah.
5 years in a row. Thank you.
Can't get much better than that, can you?
Have a little bit of a sip there. Just cheers to the mic there.
I already finished. No,
you didn't. Here, cheers.
Oh, is that
there you go. Both sides.
No, but a great season. So what we do need to do, Sauce, is we need to recap round 23. So we'll go through the games and our bets like we do every single week. We'll go through how our units are sitting and what our profits look like. I'm not going to say profit/loss because there's no losses going on here. And then we've got no bet slip to show for it, but we'll soldier on from there. So we had Brisbane versus Melbourne last week. Now, I got my tip totally wrong, but I got my bet right because I took a leaf out of Sauce's money-making handbook and bet on a promotion. So Lockie Neal to get more disposals than Petrarca. I didn't see the end of the game, Sauce, so woke up at 2 a.m. just thinking, geez, what happened here? Let's have a look. Lockie Neal, more than Petrarca. You little beauty, that's 2 units, double it up.
Yeah, better than what I looked at, Pez. I thought it was Lockie Neal versus Clayton Oliver, and I looked at the thing and I'm like, holy shit, that's a fair few units lost on the Friday night. But when I messaged you and you clarified it for me, I was a little bit excited. I had a little bit of a swagger in my step because I had the same bet there, Pez. And I took a leaf out of your book with my Ned's bonus bet. I had the alternate total over and under points, Pez, and I had, unfortunately, Brisbane to win. So I had a bonus bet there.
I do have some advice if you're going to take a leaf out of my book and do that. You've got to get the over and unders, you got that correct?
Bang on.
But you've also got to get the other leg right.
That's a bit harsh, Pez.
That's just what you need to do if you're gonna take the leaf.
Yeah, thanks, arsehole. All right, that was a 50-50 split for that one there, Pez, for me.
Yeah, GWS versus Fremantle. Now, GWS took an early 31-point lead, and I had Fremantle minus 12.5. So I was like, oh yeah, this is over. Fremantle, maybe you don't want to play top 4. Maybe you don't want to give yourself an opportunity, the second game of the round. Like, I thought they would have absolutely annihilated the Giants, but the Giants showed a little bit of heart. But Fremantle ran all over the top of them. David Mundy got a cheeky goal because the player that got the free kick actually injured and couldn't take the kick. So Mundy, who else would you want taking a set shot? So had the 2 units there, minus 12.5. Got up in the end. They won by 19 or 20 points and easy nearly double up.
Yeah, easy nearly double up there, Pez. I did the exact same thing. 2 units, 225 odds. I had the Pez special, Freo to win, over 125, under 180.5. Loving that one for a nice little profit.
All right, next 3, I don't have a bet. So North Suns, Sauce, what do you got?
You didn't bet in the North Suns. I didn't have a bet.
Geelong West Coast.
I had a bonus bet in.
Oh, you couldn't help yourself, could you?
Well, I had a bonus bet from the Friday night, and I thought I couldn't help myself. And I'm surprised you didn't bet on it, Pez. You're a big Cat supporter. You got the whiskers drawn on you today, Pez.
You could piss off.
Sorry, I'm a little bit confused there, Pez. I rock up to the podcast, and I thought we weren't running a Geelong podcast. I am looking at a very dedicated Geelong fan here. He's got the old whiskers painted on and a little bit of a black nose there. It's nice and cute. It's offered me a milk when I walked in as well. It was very nice.
It's actually Texter. I was doing my stuff for the public service today, and helping the kids out, dressing up as Cat in the Hat and giving out a lot of high fives.
Yeah, not having a bet and being a pussy, basically. Tell you what though, Pez, it was a little bit uncomfortable when you were at the pub. I hear you walked around in the pub with the makeup on.
Forgot I had it on, and I've got the 6 whiskers and the black on the nose, and went to the local just check the final standings in the footy tipping for the season, and have a couple of pots and having a good chat with the bar staff there, and didn't realise until pre-show when Sauces realised that I've got the whiskers, and then the missus goes, "Didn't you go to the pub and have some beers with that?" And the realisation set in, and couldn't stop the laughs. But yeah, no one said anything. The pricks down at the local, so maybe I need somewhere else to go.
Yeah, maybe you do, Pez. I had I put my bonus bet down, and I was at the game, and I knew it was going to be an absolute walk in the park for the Cathers, so I had a bit of fun. Just chucked multiple goal kickers down. Cameron Guthrie was the one I thought was going to struggle with Pez, and he kicked 2 in the first quarter, and it was paying about $3 for him to kick 1 goal, let alone 2. Matt Holmes didn't get a goal, and
he passed
Patrick Dangerfield, he passed one off with about 20 seconds to go.
Yep.
And Paddy Dangerfield had about 7 or 8 cracks there, Pez.
And should have had more shots.
Should have had more shots. But there was a lot of time what I was liked from him as a leader of the club is the amount of times he was in the 50 and there were other players that had a shot for goal and you could see them looking for him and he wasn't even leading. He's like, no, you go back and kick it. Doing the team thing. I like that. So I didn't lose any money there, Pez. Already had lost that. So, but no loss there for me.
Yeah, sounds like real good fun, that. It
was good fun.
bonus, but
it was good fun watching.
Essendon Richmond, nothing for me either.
Oh, Pez, I talked about this one from the week before. I jumped on this super early, minus 17.5.
Oh, I remember.
But I could have doubled up and had the minus 20.5. I could have pushed it out to minus 30.5 because it was easy money.
You should have, because when you gave the 17.5, it was already at 22.5 and no one could jump on.
Oh, well, that's why you say, Pez. And I maybe I'll give some advice for the finals in a week and a half before the teams are there. But minus 17.5, that's great. That came from the fan with Finster, Pez. He gave me their little heads up with that one. So
hey, once Clarkson announced North Melbourne as well, Essendon literally had nothing to play for.
Yeah, North Melbourne Premiers. That's what you're on. There's an early one for you.
Yeah,
2030. Yeah, cool. All right, so I had 2 units on that one, Pez. That was an easy one.
Yeah, very good. Port Adelaide versus Adelaide. I was confident in this one. 2 units on Port Adelaide line. It looked shaky in the first half, it was a close game, but Port Adelaide still in a little bit of control, and then they just went bang and thought, you know what? Adelaide, they got us last time. They're not getting us this time with a 55-point win.
Yeah, it was a great Pez. I put in a money ball bonus, not bonus bet, sorry, just a 2-unit one for Travis Boak to have more disposals than Jordan Dawson.
Just a promotion, yep.
Just a promotion standard, Pez, where I make my money. It doesn't matter how you make it as long as you make it.
Boak was in trouble for a little bit.
Boak was in trouble very early, and it was right up until the last quarter, Pez, with a couple of nice little back and forth handball connections. I'm sitting out front my missus' place after watching the Geelong game and driving back. I'm sitting in the car, glued to it, and she's like, I don't understand why you're watching it. It's like a 30 points. I'm like, because I need this guy here to get two more. And then it went bang, bang, bang.
If people aren't inclined with watching footy, and if you're a punter and you've got disposals and goals and things, you can be watching down to the last second in a 99-point game.
Yes, and I was. He ended up getting up by 2 in the last maybe 30 seconds. A great little handball connection from Boak. But then you still got to watch because you're like, if there's a turnover, what happens if Dawson gets the same thing? So I love that one doubled up there, Pez.
Very good. Then Sunday, the mad Sunday, which it was, Hawthorn versus the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I didn't have a bet in this one, Pez. I was leaning towards Hawthorn, and I looked pretty good there for some stages of that game, but the Bulldogs too strong in the end. Yeah,
the Bulldogs just had to do it, and minus 16.5 I had. It did look shaky, as you said, but most of the teams that had to win did look shaky at the start, and the other team came out firing. So ended up getting up in the end, and that's all I needed for my 3-leg same game multi. So doubled up in a little bit there at $2.04 odds with 1 unit. The next one was Carlton versus Collingwood, and I had the Carlton 40-plus cheeky here, Sauce, and it was looking really good in that third quarter after being 30 points down. And then I did not mind that game finished close and Carlton missed the finals because it's a great narrative, and to lose the little cheeky there, I'll take that any day of the week.
And both of us had the same theory with this one, Pez. We literally were having a punt because we wanted to have a little bit of extra... little bit of fun on the game, with which should have already been and was an absolute spectacle, Pez. I had the 3-leg same game multi, hit none of them, but as you said, I was pretty happy with it. So
none of them. Now, St Kilda Sydney, I wouldn't usually bet on this game, Sauce, and I had a tab bonus bet, and my issue was I got the bonus bet from the the multi.
Yeah.
And it expires in 7 days.
I have the same issue, actually. I wanted to talk to you about that.
It expires in 7 days. So if it expires, I couldn't think of, I might have forgotten it during this week with the pre-finals bye. So I just whacked it on Isaac Heaney to kick 3+ goals, because if Sydney had won by maybe 40 points, 50 points, they would have been playing a home final against Melbourne Sauce. They would have finished second, and they let a big opportunity slip, the Swans, because they should have demolished St Kilda, and they left the door ajar, and St Kilda just kept on coming with their turnovers and slow ball movement as we're used to with St Kilda. But Isaac Heaney, 2 goals, 2 in the end. Didn't get his 3 goals, which was paying 220, but I just had my bonus 50 on that, and I picked the most likely Swan to kick 3.
Yeah, I didn't have a game in this one, Pez. Steer clear. Did enjoy watching this one at the pub, especially with one thing I love, Pez, is the live ladder that sat in the corner of this for 90% of the game, and there was no movement. No movement, no percentage movement, no nothing. And I just love that even up until like 30 seconds ago, live ladder just sitting there.
Oh, when there's no chance of them catching 2%?
There's no chance of catching them 2%. And
that's when the live ladder's got to go.
It doesn't need to be there the whole game. Just every time there's a score, the live ladder is affected.
Not just the whole game, and not just that game. It was all Sunday.
Oh, it was so annoying.
The Hawthorn Bulldogs game, like when the Bulldogs were winning and they got over the percentage, show the ladder and show, hey, they're above Carlton fans, because you've got to, build interest or whatever.
That's cool.
And then Carlton fans, it didn't matter about the live ladder. Everybody knew what was happening.
It was good to see after that goal. And then they just showed the when they were down by 5 points, and then they showed the live ladder, and Carlton are sitting above them, and then they showed that after the goal the live ladder, and it swapped around.
Make up your mind, Sauce. You like it.
No, I liked that when it mattered. Right, when the game is dead, and they needed 50-something points to cement that, and they're sitting at 30 points. Well, there's 3 goals either side where it doesn't even matter. Yeah, 4 or 5 goals to make a difference. I don't want to see it every time they score, because they need more.
And
goals.
When it was a 7-point game and they needed 7 goals in 10 minutes, it wasn't going to happen. So get rid of the live ladder. My multi lost from Brisbane. I just chucked them in there and was wrong. So that's where my multi and my bonus already went, Sauce.
Yeah, I had Brisbane, Fremantle, Richmond. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, so I got a bonus bet for that one, Pez. But
you got a bit of an issue.
I do. It expires on the 28th. So am I right to use the bonus bet for the next round of footy?
100%.
Yeah,
the
cool.
only thing you have to do is let the fans know. Right, Don't jump on.
So when am I putting it out? So as soon as I have it there, I'm ready. I put it out.
As soon as you put it out, because we don't know. There might be some.
Put it on a future, maybe.
There might be some psychopath listeners out there that actually follow your bet, Sauce. So if they do, give them a chance.
What about the old futures there, Pez? Maybe I chuck it on a sneaky.
You can chuck it on whatever you want, because the media manager has plenty of room with only 8 teams left.
Do you want to know any of the odds, Pez, and what I might be thinking, or nah?
The listeners are frothing for it. Let's have a look. What do we got?
Well, I just closed the screen, so.
You expect me to say no?
The AFL, I did actually. The AFL Premiership. Some of the popular ones, Pez, is the AFL Premiership winner bet stand regardless of the season format, which is good to know. This is on tab. I don't know what that means. Brisbane, $31. Collingwood, $10. Freo, $23. Geelong, $2.90. Melbourne, $3.25. Richmond, $13. Sydney, $6. The Doggies at 31. The same odds as Brisbane.
That's what I don't like about tab. Why is it not in odds order?
I'm going to sneak across to just Sportsbet there, Pez, because we know Sportsbet is a great user-friendly app. They're similar to MintBet there, Pez. They're a great...
good user-friendly app.
Great user-friendly app.
Horrible employees that ban you for no reason.
The finals extra markets are great. So you've got, the most goals in finals, most disposals.
Forgot about those.
AFL finals, most goals. Who do you think the favourite is?
For most goals?
Most goals during the AFL finals.
You got to think of a team that's going to play 3. So if you think Geelong is going to play in the finals, Jeremy Cameron would be a hot favourite in there. You got to try and pick the first, like the elimination games. You can a team wins 2 in a row, they're definitely playing in prelim. They could possibly play 4 games if they win the prelim as well. So if you think of a team like Richmond, you think of Tom Lynch. I think he's going to be up there in the top 5 or so as an option, because if they make it and he plays enough games, he's going to be the one kicking goals.
And Pez, that's why we make so much money with your in-depth knowledge. Cameron, $4.75 favourite. Tommy Hawkins, $7. Fritsch, $7.50. Tommy Lynch sitting at fourth at the $8. Franklin there sitting at $11, and Heaney, our man, at 15. So if you don't mind any of those, as you said, those teams that possibly lose the first week, but then can maybe have the matchup right, you're in for a bit of a shot there, Pez.
Oh, if they lose the first week, your player kicks 2 goals.
Yep.
They come out next week, they kick 5 in that elimination game, get to the prelim, win or lose, they kick another 2. They're sitting thereabouts, and you win that prelim Sauce, that next one, you get to play 4 games. If you can pick that, you can make some money on that.
You can definitely make some money, Pez. There's a couple of sneaky opportunities if you think there's a match-up there. Obviously, if you think, for example, Richmond are going to lose the first week at home final with Brisbane, jump on a couple of Brisbane players because they're going to be playing at least 2 games, and they have that possibility of that mix-up with the loser from the week before. They might favour one of those matchups, as you said, against that Sydney maybe, or
possibly
maybe even against the Cats or...
well, they'll be playing Sydney or
Magpies.
Melbourne.
Yep. Sydney or Melbourne, exactly right. So if you like that matchup and they get Sydney, then you might jump on one of those. Most disposals, Pez. Who's leading the race there? Listen to your expertise.
Oh, well, you've got Oliver, who is probably expected to play 3 games, would probably be favourite. If you think Brisbane's going to win, a Lockie Neal. But I saw Tom Lynch in there for the goals you said. So who's a Richmond player that would be high in disposals every week? Like a Prestia?
Yeah, correct. Bang on. Pez, love your knowledge. 375 Oliver, Petrarca 1150, Guthrie unusual at 13, the team that sort of shares the ball, but they think the Cats are going to get there. Callum Mills, great odds at 15. Prestia, your man you just mentioned there, 15. Parker, 15. Andy Brayshaw, 18. Angus Brayshaw, 18, just because they couldn't separate the names like Old Sauce there, but a couple of good little odds there, Pez. And then always the AFL Grand Final first goal scorer. Great odds. That's already on, Pez.
Holy crap.
And this is...
Nick Maxwell.
Can I just tell you, this is one of the worst odds and bets to do. Do not put any money down
What's
on
Tyson
the
Goldsack
first goal
playing?
scorer. First goal scorer of the 2020 AFL Grand Final. It is disgusting.
2020 AFL Grand Final, I'll put it on.
2022, sorry.
Oh, 2022.
2022. Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins, Bailey Fritsch, Keziah Pickett. They think it's going to be a Geelong-Melbourne game. Or Sydney. Sydney's the next person down there at $23.
Wait, what are the odds? Surely they're not
So-
like what, $15 for Cameron?
$12 for Cameron. That's shocking.
That's horrible.
That's
You
horrible.
can get
odds.
$7 or $6 for him
On the
on a
day.
normal
Yep, terrible.
game.
So don't get sucked in with the festivity of the finals there, Pez.
Don't ever bet on first goal scorer.
No, you don't. It's
Don't
ridiculous.
ever do it.
Don't do it. The best thing you could do for first goal scorer is the bundles that Ned's have, where you can pick 6 people. But even then, compromised odds, it's not worth it.
I've seen some people bet on all 22 players before and go, I'm going to have to win somewhere.
But you only win, Pez, if you go big.
You have to go big.
Got to go, Pin. All right, Pez. We haven't really addressed the finals, and that's because next week we will unpack each game in depth. So the way we normally do finals, Pez, we go through a couple of the losers of the teams that have been eliminated. We might do a little bit of a sneaky podcast there, Pez, and eliminate talk about the teams and what they need to do in the off season. We will go into extreme depth next week, Pez, and we normally have a couple of futures sometimes with that, but we can discuss how that's going because, Pez, when you're up as many units as we are, which we haven't discussed actually, when you're up as many units as we are, Pez, you can have that flexibility. But tell the viewers how many units we're up.
Jeez. Round 23, we spoke about all the wins and
We
losses.
do that every week too.
Well, we just
Anyone would
forget
think we're
about
a
it.
losing podcast.
Oh, yeah. Staked, yeah, because every other podcast doesn't talk about it that lose. We staked 9.4 units for round 23, returned 13.68 for a profit of 4.28 units for the round Sauce, which takes me round one through to 23. I staked 213.8 units. I returned 296.16 units for a profit of 82.36 units.
Absolutely
And,
love it, nice, Pez.
just rolling in it and a couple of nice purchases around the house because of it.
Maybe not a face washer. You could have purchased something like that. Anyway, staked for the year, Pez. I staked. For that round, 12.4 units. Returned
A big staking round from you.
16.30 units, Pez. You know why? Because if you get a couple of wins early, you sit there and you're a little bit confident, got a little bit extra to play with, so you chuck a couple of sneaky ones down.
You love having that little
Profit
30
loss 3.90 units. Pez, love that. Staked for the year 189 units. 180. 0.4 units of stakes for the year, returned at 226.29 units pairs, a profit loss of 37.25 pairs. We love that. You put 50 as your unit, I'm pulling home $1,800 and you love
The listeners are just bored at this stage.
Oh, that's rude.
They have to be bored at this stage. We're just saying, oh yeah, we're up this many units this round, this many units this round, and people might not believe that we're up that many units. Source.
Go to our Twitter. It's all there.
All there, all accounted for.
And do you know what's really good, Pez, about our bet slip? And I know it's only a bit of a fig jam here. We used to have a teacher about that fig jam.
Well, just about every bet is out before the games.
Yep, it definitely is. And not only that, Pez, if you look at our bet slip, you can actually see that it is a bet that is priced. You can see the units that we're spending there. Oh, yeah. That's what I love, Pez, is you don't just put it in there and the tweet is like, I'm going Geelong, big, lots of units. And then when it loses, goes, oh, I only lost two units. But what are your units? People see that we're backing it. We put our money where our mouth is.
There was nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide.
There's no deleted tweets on this podcast either.
Tell you what, I was getting pretty close there, Pez, on the Boke bet when I put down live. I didn't know if you'd seen it or not. I'm like, oh, it's a cheeky one, but no.
Doesn't matter if I've seen it. A lot of people have the notifications turned on.
Of course, the honour system. But I tell you what, though, it was pretty close listening to that on the way back. He was down 16-3.
Yeah. While we're on betting, and we don't have a bet slip to talk about, obviously, but I just saw this week, I don't know how, my intern didn't tell me, but Derek sent the inbox on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it either, Source, but he showed us the Richmond line. He actually jumped on the Richmond versus Essendon line, I think before you, because he got minus 14.5 last week.
Jesus Christ.
But the issue was, he said, I got on earlier than Source, but when Richmond destroy whatever, what are they going to do? It's 18.5 already. It'll probably finish at 26.5 is what he said. He tried to put on $200 on Neds and they only gave him 138.89. So $138.89 is all they let him stake to return 263. So they only wanted to risk losing $125 Neds on that bet, which is really strange because I have not been restricted on Neds yet. They've started reviewing a few different little bets, but I've never seen a bet like that actually be taken back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's odd. Maybe because
it was so early in the week.
Maybe because it was so early and the other game hadn't finished yet and they knew the line was going to shift. Maybe that's all it was.
That's the only explanation there. But good job to Derek for jumping on early and having that mindset to have a look and try and get a little bit of value early.
And that's why I talk about it, Pez, about putting game bets on early because it's about the mindset and about predicting the future.
Good if you told anyone as well.
It would be good if I told anyone else. But speaking of predicting the future, Pez, there was a...
Siddle takes a special and goes bang!
It was a special that I've just seen one on Moneyball, Pez. And if you like the Demons to do well this year in the finals, Pez, you can get any Melbourne Demons player to be named the 2022 Gary Ayres medalist, which we know is the best player during the finals, 2 buckaroos.
There you go. You like it?
Nah, I don't like it.
Okay.
Because Geelong's going to win the flag. So
you got Oliver, you got Petrarca, you got Gawn.
You haven't got Gawn. Gawn's not winning the best player of the thing compared to any midfielder.
If he dominates in the ruck for 3 games.
I don't know how it works though, Pegs, because if Melbourne win it, they're playing 3 games. So it's one of those interesting ones. So he can, if Petrarca or let's say Petrarca wins it, he can win it on a max of 9 votes.
You tell me that Max Gawn resting forward, he kicks 15 goals over 3 games. He's not winning the Gary Ayres medal?
Because if they're winning, then Petrarca and Oliver are taking votes off each other.
If Max Gawn kicks 5 goals a game, he's winning the Gary Ayres medal.
Not getting the 3 votes.
Wow.
Will you jump? You like it? Do you like it? 22?
No.
No, me neither.
Not really.
Why don't know why we're arguing?
That's what we love to do.
I don't know why we're arguing, Pez. We both thought it was a shit bet. But I'm just letting the punters know out there. A couple of the D's fans, I know they're up and about now that they've turned the switch, as we keep hearing.
What I do want to know, and I want to ask the listeners, if you know of any finals comps, because tipping's over for the year.
Ooh, yeah.
So we've raked in our winnings and done all that. But if you know any finals comps anywhere, just inbox Behind the Bound because I'd love to get involved in any finals tipping competition.
Love it.
There is possible. And
any capping ones, any ones where you're picking lines, where you're picking last man standing,
whatever
where
it might be.
Any of those sort of players to kick goals. I love all that sort of stuff. Inbox the show, Pez. Where can they find us? At
Behind the Bound on Twitter, and you can, if you don't believe what we're saying here, because it is unbelievable, Source, when you do say it. I can't believe what I'm saying as well. But you go back, you can check the history.
Yeah.
It's all there and accountable.
It's all there and accountable, Pez, and we keep saying that we're surprised by it, Pez. But 5 years of winnings, this is the biggest that we've won, together for a long, long time. Huge.
Oh, it's a massive win, which is what makes it all the more better. If I lose 82 units over the next 4 weeks of footy, I'm going to be very disappointed to have a losing season this year.
We might need to bet responsibly, Pez, and not be throwing that many units down in 3 weeks of finals.
When there's not that many games. No,
4 weeks of finals, sorry.
That definitely won't be happening. But hopefully the listeners got their footy fix for the weekend. AFLW started this week, started tonight. So Collingwood taking the chocolates over Carlton again by the looks of things when I looked at the score last. So Carlton fans would be wrapped with that.
Yeah, so maybe I think it was International Check on Your Blues Supporter Friend Day the other day, so make sure you check on all those Blues fans.
Yeah, because as much as we love to hate them, they do feel for it. And
passionate.
The fights in the crowd. That's not on.
Not on.
And
were you asking a question or telling me?
I'm just telling you, it's not on, Sauce.
Not on.
So
I don't do it.
verbal banter is good. You just can't take it too far.
No.
And it can't turn physical, and you can't be, punching people and
no, it's not on.
Everything's caught on.
We as adults and as sports lovers, the game's about respect, and by taking that sort of opinion and acting like a peanut, you're not respecting the game. And just go there, enjoy, talk about the footy, leave. See you later.
I actually did say there is going to be punch-ons in the Carlton Collingwood game, no matter what.
Yeah, true.
With those fans there. I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time.